Hey, hey, hey! My name's Helly Unscripted, or Nephilim if you'd prefer. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and this is the beginning of my first YouTube series, in which I read the AO3 fanfiction by XX Cypress Minerva XX, which is entitled eijirou. Eijirou is best described by its summary, which is as followed. It wasn't a matter of honour, because in his heart he knew that eijirou would find his own path, and hopefully he wouldn't have to walk it alone, because eijirou Kirishima had the heart of a lion, and one day all of Japan and a worthy person would see it. All the Kiribaku Mulan AU nobody asked for, but needed. I wholeheartedly believe that this fanfiction was very much needed by the My Hero Academia fandom. Mulan is one of my favourite Disney movies, and this fanfiction amazingly puts together my love for the movie and a fandom that I'm in. Now I implore you to sit back and relax whilst I read to you. Chapter 1. Home with You. Night had fallen over Japan. Silence spread across the bustling villages and towns like a thick blanket. Silver stars shone brightly in the dark sky, illuminating the vast forests and grassy hills beyond. The moon was large enough and full, casting a silver shadow over the stone houses below. A lone soldier paced, youthful face screwed into neutrality. He had just finished writing to his beloved wife. She had written to him days ago that she was pregnant, but she was fine, and could wait for his return to celebrate properly. Those words were the only thing keeping him here. Otherwise, he would be at home caring for his wife. The soldier hoped he could at least be there to welcome his child into the world. He had promised her after all. Daughter or son, he couldn't be happier. His eyes glint in the darkness as for a moment he imagined the reunion and the tears he would shed at the feeling of having his beloved wife in his arms once more. He wonders how it feels to have the tiny, soft hand of his child touch his older, rough one. He is snapped back to the present when a large falcon emerges from the darkness. It swoops down, its clawed talons outstretched toward him. The soldier barely has time to duck before his helmet is knocked off his head. The falcon lands on top of the flagpole, seeming to glare disdainfully at the Emperor's crest and then at him. The soldier stares at the bird in disbelief, rubbing at the sore spot in the back of his head. When he looks at his hand, it appears that the impact had drawn blood. He clenches his fist, opening his mouth to yell at the bird, before the falcon lets out a shrill cry that made the shout die in his throat. The pounding of footsteps fills his ears, and the soldier rushes to the wall's edge. The soldier watches in horror as grappling hooks sail upwards, narrowly hitting him as he hastily backs away from the edge. There's a loud, heart-wrenching scrape as the iron hooks dig into the stone. "We're under attack!" he bellows, praying to every god he knew that his comrades heard. "Light the signal!" He rushes toward the watchtower's entrance, barely registering the chunk of wood sailing into his eye when two broad-shouldered men burst through the door. He darts to the wooden ladder, scrambling to the top of the tower as the ladder is cut out from under him. The soldier wrests the torch from its hanger, whirling around as a young man with pale blue hair easily leaps onto the stone tower. The falcon screeches before resting on the young man's bony shoulder. He towers over the soldier, the hand covering most of his face, revealing a horrifying sneer. But the soldier doesn't hesitate. He tosses the torch into the basin filled with oil, and flames erupt from the basin. Soon, the wall is set aglow with the signal. The young man watches with dark amusement, chapped lips spreading into a cruel smile. "Now all of Japan knows you're here," he says, firm and unwavering. He was terrified, yes, but this crook didn't need to know that. This criminal would be put to death for his sins soon. The soldier was sure of that. The young man doesn't respond. He snaps the flag carrying the Emperor's crest with 4 of his fingers, holding it over the flame and watching it smolder. Perfect. His dark, scratchy voice fills the soldier with fear, but he stands tall. Then the young man pushes his chest and the soldier's death shortly follows. His blood-curdling scream stretches across the expanse of Japan, causing a certain crimson-eyed boy to stir in his sleep. eijirou Kirishima rubs the scar over his eye, grumbling softly at the racket. "It's not even daylight yet, you crazy rooster," he mumbles, staring blearily-eyed at the moonlight streaming through his window. "What's going into you?" There's a soft coo coming from the chicken coop. The grand double doors stretching the length of the towering central chamber are dragged open, slamming into the expensive wallpaper with a loud bang. General Aizawa steps quickly into the grand throne room. dark hair pulled into a ponytail falling messily over his shoulders. He is flanked by his most trusted soldiers, and while they are the two he trusts the most, they certainly aren't the only ones who have faith in him. Upon reaching the front of the throne room, General Aizawa, President Mike, and Ectoplasm all kneel at the foot of the throne. Emperor Nezu watches them rise, scar gleaming red in the candlelight. Your Majesty, the League of Villains has breached our northern border. General Aizawa's voice, usually so neutral and emotionless, was filled with icy rage that made President Mike shoot him a pleading look. General Aizawa visibly sighs, turning his gaze to the Emperor. Impossible! Endeavor snarled, his intimidating form appearing beside the Emperor's golden throne. He glares at the general as if this was a cruel joke. No one's gotten past that damn wall in centuries! What makes you think— I hardly believe that someone so high up in the ranks could think that a couple pieces of cement could defend a whole country. General Aizawa growls, stepping forward as if to strike the other man, but quickly composes himself as Emperor Nezu raises a paw to silence them. The Emperor rises, usual smile growing extremely serious. Please continue, General Aizawa, the Emperor says, motioning for the general to continue. Tomura Shigaraki is leading these Neanderthal supporters. General Aizawa straightens, a cold fire lighting in his eyes. We'll set up defences around your palace immediately. Don't. Emperor Nezu is stern as he speaks. Send your troops to protect my people. Endeavour. He directs his attention to his scowling advisor. Yes, Your Highness. Anger, red and hot, never fades from Endeavour's voice despite who he's speaking to. I want you to deliver conscription notices throughout all the provinces. Call up reserves and as many recruits as possible. His tone leaves no room for debate, sending a cold chill through all that were present. My troops can stop them. Aizawa murmurs as Endeavour leaves to carry out his order. He stands tall over the much shorter Emperor, and his men share a nervous glance. I won't take any chances, General. Emperor Nezu peers up at General Aizawa, who had lost so much yet still had never let him down. He respected this man greatly and trusted him with his life, which is why he knew the task ahead would be especially difficult for him. For the both of them. Emperor Nezu strokes his fur. A single grain of rice can tip the scale. One man may be the difference between victory and defeat. The Emperor glances up to see the general screwing his face into something neutral, but the Emperor knew he understood. General Aizawa and his men bowed low before they departed from his presence. The Emperor stares out the window, down at the bustling streets filled with musical laughter and bubbling voices. Each of those voices belonged to a person who had a family. Emperor Nezu prayed that those below would never have to experience the loss he knew General Shota Aizawa had experienced. A grain of rice, one most attuned to its origin, can have twice the impact, he muses softly to himself. Eijirou Kirishima runs a hand through his dark hair, sighing softly through his nose. His crimson eyes are narrowed in concentration. With his hardened hand, he picks up 2 grains of rice from the mound. His intention wasn't eating it, however, he narrowly snaps the chopsticks in half when he squeezes too hard. Strong, firm, he murmurs, shifting the chopsticks as gently as he could. Kind, gentle, a man worthy of being a husband. He switches off his hardening, raising a clump of rice from his bowl. He takes a bite, chewing as softly as he could with his sharp teeth. Eijirou was training himself. Today he would be expected to become engaged to one of the village girls, and he really wanted to make a good impression. He knew that he was expected to be this powerful, controlling presence or whatever, but Eijirou didn't want to be like that. After all, he was going to spend the rest of his life with this person once they turned 18, right? They would be partners, a team. He would protect them, sure, but he would be gentle and loving too. So that's why Eijirou was doing this. He was demonstrating control over not only his power, but over himself. He knew his quirk wasn't much to brag about, considering the fact he could only harden a single part of his body at a time. Eijirou gritted his teeth. He could only get stronger. No, he will get stronger. That he could promise. From outside his window, he hears a rooster crow loudly. Oh, no, crap! Kirishima flails, falling off his bed with a loud crash. His rice clatters to the floor, spilling everywhere, but Eijirou ignores it, prying his hand out of the tile floor. There's a large dent in the floor in the shape of a handprint. Eijirou grimaces. He can fix that later. He darts out of the room, cupping his hands to his mouth as he calls out, Koji! Koji! The large dog freezes in the middle of rolling in the dirt, tongue lolling to the side as he pants silently. Eijirou chuckles, beaming at the dog as he scratches behind his ears. Morning, buddy. Having fun? He fishes around in his pocket, pulling out a dog bone. Koji sits up, body wiggling as his tail slaps furiously against the dirt. Who's the smartest doggo in the world? Eijirou pauses to heave a small bag of grain over his shoulders from the stable, tying it to a stick with a piece of rope. He shows it to Koji, laughing when the dog tilts his large head. Come on, Koji. Can you help me with my chores today? The dog stares at him before leaning in to lick at his hand. With Koji's consent, Eijirou ties it all together with rope. They had been practicing this for a while now, and it seemed to work during their practice runs anyway. All Koji had to do was run past the chicken coop and back. Red eyes glint in mischief, tongue poking out slightly as he ties the sack of grain to Koji's collar. The dog snaps at the bone hanging in front of his face, but Eijirou grips his collar to hold him still as he ties a second knot. Ready? The bag of grain is sliced open with his hardened hand, spilling grain all over his shoes. Get set. Eijirou mumbles, positioning the grain behind the dog as Koji leans over to lick his face. He laughs, nudging the dog's head forward. Moment of truth, Koji. The dog's lips pull into a silent snarl, and he lunges for the bone. Go, Koji! Eijirou releases him, and Koji starts to chase it over the hill towards the chicken coop and out of sight. He pumps his fist in the air. Woo! Standing, Eijirou hears a snort from the stables. He catches Tokoyami giving him an amused stare, and he grins, gently reaching over to pat his flank. Meanwhile, in the ancestral temple, Taishiro Toyomitsu, formerly Fat Gum, during his war efforts, bows low at the altar in deep prayer. His bony frame is hunched forward as he stares thoughtfully at the smooth stones before him. Kanji dances before his eyes, the names of his ancestors seeming to cast a ghostly blue shadow across the stone floor. Ancestors, I beg of you, please help Eijirou impress the matchmaker. Hope drips into his voice as he prays, and the older man squeezes his eyes shut. Tashiro peers from the corner of his eyes just as Koji appears, spilling grain from a sack. He runs a circle around him before darting out. Chickens squawk in indignation, puffing out their feathers before leaning down to peck at the grains, clucking loudly. Please. Taishiro sighs, pressing his hands more tightly together. Please help him. It was evident that he'd be spending the day here, praying for his youngest son. As his father, of course he would love his youngest no matter what happened with the matchmaker today. In fact, in his opinion, his son was way too young to get engaged anyhow. But Eijirou had insisted, saying that now it was his turn, no, his duty, to bring honour to the family. And as much as Tashiro admired this, his true wish was for his son to be proud of who he was. He knew Eijirou didn't think so, but he was strong and oh, so kind and friendly, sturdy in tough situations. And if that old bat of a matchmaker didn't see it, then Tashiro would come over there and shove his foot right up his... There's a loud whoop from behind him, and Tashiro can't help but grin, pausing in his prayer to go meet his son at the stone steps. Rushing up toward the family temple, clutching a tea tray, Eijirou watches in amusement as Koji stands on his hind legs and swats at the bone, trying his best to pull it down, whimpering. Good job, buddy! He chuckles, bending down to pull the bone down in front of the dog's face. Koji snaps at it eagerly, slobber dripping onto the stone steps. Then, as Eijirou stands, his head slams into his father's chest, startling them both. The tray slips from his calloused hands, and the porcelain teapot and cup fly into the air. Tashiro only manages to catch the teapot with his cane, a carved gift from his comrades in light of his last time in war. The cup crashes into the ground, breaking into a million pieces with a loud smash. Eijirou sighs, then straightens, wresting a cup from his pocket and holding it out proudly for his father to see. And when he grins brightly, sharp teeth glowing in white in the morning sun, Tashiro feels his shoulders relax a bit. I've a spare, it's all good. Eijirou tips the teapot downward, pouring the tea into the cup as calm as possible. Doctor's orders, Pops. You have to drink 3 cups of tea in the morning every day. And I know you don't like that jasmine tea so much, so I went into town and got you some different flavours. Taishiro gives his caring son a soft look. Thanks for that, kid. Tastes like dirt, but really, you should already be in town. I know how important it is for you to uphold the family honor by taking a bride. Eijirou says instantly, another bright smile lighting up his face. Don't worry, Dad, I won't let you down. You and Amajiki can rest easy tonight knowing that I've brought a whole load of honor to our family name. Upon speaking his brother's name, he gets a soft look in his piercing red eyes. Taishiro smiles. Eijirou adored his brother, and ever since Togata and Tamaki had gotten engaged, that adoration had only grown for an obvious reason. And because of that, Taishiro was even more hesitant about letting his son see the matchmaker today. Honor or not, he wanted his son to have a happy life with a person, woman, or man that he truly loved with his whole heart, not a person he felt he had to stay with because of family honor or duty. Well, if you truly feel that way, you should hurry. Amajiki and Togata are waiting for you. Panic spreads across Eijirou's face, and he turns to dart away into town, but he catches his wrist. The young man whirls around to stare in confusion, dark hair whipping in front of his face. Promise me, A. Stay true to yourself, alright? Okay, I understand. Taishiro knows he doesn't really understand, not yet, but he lets go of him anyway, watching as his dark hair disappears over a hill of grass. Taishiro glances at Koji with a chuckle before sighing heavily. I should go pray some more. That boy is going to cause a stir today. Hopefully, a good one. He turned and limped back into the temple. It was bad enough that the townspeople had turned their backs on Taishiro and his two adopted sons. They believed that in bringing two orphans into his home, he was throwing his honor away. But Taishiro ignored them. It wasn't a matter of honor, because in his heart he knew that Eijirou would find his own path, and hopefully he wouldn't have to walk it alone. Because Eijirou Kirishima had the heart of a lion, and one day all of Japan and a worthy person would see it. Let's do this, Toko. Eijirou mumbles into the horse's ear as they thunder into the village square. People yelp as he passes, practically leaping out of his path. They stared in horror at his wild hair and flushed cheeks. He grins at them, waving cheerily. Morning! His brows pinch together in frustration when they ignore him, but he doesn't dare stop to talk to them. He's on a mission. Tamaki and Togata stood by the fountain, seeming to be talking. His brother's forehead was pressed against the wall, dark hair covering most of his face as he spoke to Togata in a soft voice. Togata's bright smile was ever present as he showed off a small bamboo cage to his fiancée, the tiny blue cricket squeaking with fear as Togata lifted the cage up towards his brother's face. The cricket scrambled as far away from his brother as the small cage would allow, with a squeal. Even the cricket thinks I'm scary. Tamaki sighed gloomily. Aw, come on, Tamaki. Don't be sad, Togata said, affectionately rubbing his shoulder. He's not scared of you. I'm pretty sure this cricket's lucky. If you say so. Togata laughs. Eijirou pulled on Tokoyami's reins as he reached them, jumping off of the stallion and throwing his arms up as if he'd just performed a magnificent trick. He grins brightly. Here, I'm here! He exclaims, watching as Togata laughs again and Tamaki finally turns away from the wall, eyes blinking at the bright sunlight peeking through his bangs. You're really late, he says, trembling as a group of older women pass by, whispering. I know, I'm sorry for making you worry, I just... No, he means like late. Togata interjects kindly, giving an apologetic grin. Like, we need to get you ready right now. Like, the matchmaker won't see you if we don't go now. Like, Mirio, I think he gets it. Mirio Togata's hands flap in the air. Sorry, rambling. Again, my bad. The colour seems to drain from Eijirou's face. They already started? Despite his best efforts not to, the young man begins to tremble, stammering out apologies that seem to make Tamaki even more anxious. He was 15. This was his only chance to get betrothed to a girl to be married once they turned 18, or the little respect that the townspeople had for him would become non-existent. The family honour practically diminished. He would have failed at the one thing he was good for, and let down his dad and brother once again. And he was already failing as the future husband, a son, and a man. He knew he wasn't that strong or smart. He couldn't fight, he could sing somewhat, but where would that get him? This was his last chance to prove himself. Don't get yourself down, Kirishima! Togata's voice startles him, and he stares in disbelief as Togata's usual happy face becomes sad. There's still time! It's not like you failed the test already by being a bit late. Heck, I showed up like A week after I was supposed to! For some reason, that comment makes eijirou feel a bit better. He knew Tamaki and him were engaged, but to him, being with Togata kind of felt like having another older brother, and for that he was grateful. But before eijirou could protest, the cricket's cage was shoved into his pocket. Lucky cricket! In case you still feel a bit down, Togata says, clapping him on the shoulder. We'll be rooting for you, eh? Tamaki says, shakily raising a thumbs up. He beams at his brother, at Togata. I won't let you down! I'll bring honour to us all! And with that, he rushed towards the matchmaker temple, dark hair whipping in the wind like the ribbons used to make his armour. Or costume, more accurately. He and his father had worked on it together. Though he'd heard plenty of his friends tell him that the design made no sense, it made him even prouder to wear it. Nobody else would ever dream of wearing something like this other than him. After all, not many people knew of, much less looked up to, the great warrior and hero Crimson Riot. This man, the very embodiment of manliness and chivalry, had inspired not only his costume, but helped him cement his decision to bring honour to his family through marriage. He had, not that long ago, dreamt of becoming a hero. He would be Red Riot, a chivalrous, sturdy and brave hero who saved everyone. But he didn't have the strength. His top priority was to bring honour to his family, and this was his last chance to do so. And if he had to get betrothed to a girl now at 15, so be it. Thank you so much for watching my YouTube video. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. All credits go to the original creator of this fanfiction, XX Cypress Minerva XX on AO3. I would highly appreciate it if you gave this video a like and you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to be notified when I next upload. There's no pressure to do so though. Thank you for visiting my cozy corner of the internet. Keep growing, my sunflowers. Mwah!